Okay, so I want to summarize our hypothesis testing for the population proportion pi. Okay, so step one, hypotheses. Just as before, it's either pi is equal to some hypothesized value, or we might test for whether it's greater than some value or less than some value. So same as the means, we're just using pi's instead of mu's. And of course, we recall that the alternative hypothesis is our research question. Step two, calculate our test statistic. So now we have t-stat is equal to this formula rather than what we had for the t-stat. Then we create our rejection region. And so if we have a two-sided test, then our rejection region will have two areas, z-stat less than negative z alpha over 2, or z-stat greater than alpha over 2. Of course, we use alpha over 2 for two-sided tests, and we just use alpha for one-sided tests. So that could either be pi less than pi naught, in which case our rejection region is z-stat less than negative z alpha, or we could say pi greater than pi naught, in which case the rejection region is z-stat greater than z alpha. Step 4, conclusion. So we plug our z-stat into the rejection region. So if z-stat is in that rejection region, then we reject the null and we accept the alternative hypothesis. But if z-stat is not in the rejection region, then we fail to reject the null hypothesis. And then step 5, of course, is our interpretation. So we put our conclusion back into the context of the problem. So again, this is our critical value approach for hypothesis testing for the proportion. And then let's summarize the p-value approach. So the p-value approach for pi. So step 1, it remains unchanged. Step 2, it remains unchanged. Step 3, we calculate our p-value. So now for a one-sided test, the p-value is z greater than the absolute value of z-stat. And for a two-sided test, it's 2 times the probability z bigger than the absolute value of z-stat. Step 4, so if p-value is less than or equal to alpha, we reject h0 and accept HA. And if p-value is greater than alpha, then we will fail to reject the null hypothesis. And then step 5, of course, is our interpretation. So just as before, like where I think I recommended that as we work through problems for hypothesis testing for the mean, we have these, I recommended having these summary files handy, so to keep us organized as we work through problems. I think doing the same thing here will be really helpful. So I think this page, so critical value approach for pi, and then this page, the p-value approach for pi as well. Okay, and the next videos we are going to practice doing hypothesis testing for the proportion.